The Amanda Project by Melissa Kantor and Amanda Valentino. Chapter 20. Outside, Mr. Thornhill, Nia, and Hal were waiting. Hal seemed out of breath. Apparently he'd made a run to his locker as well. I looked around, but Jason and Todd were nowhere to be seen.
"Remind me, Callie," snapped Mr. Thornhill, looking meaningfully at his watch. "Were you retrieving a book or writing a book?"
"Sorry it took so long," I apologized. In the midst of my being so mad at Amanda, I could still breathe a sigh of relief that Mr. Thornhill didn't seem to be about to accuse us of having raided his office over the course of the morning.
"I'm not really interested in apologies from you." He drew a circle in the air as if to enclose the three of us in it. "From any of you, actually. What I would like is some information about your friend Amanda."
I looked down at my feet. In some ways, Mr. Thornhill's request was even more absurd than he realized. Clearly, if there was one thing I knew right now, it was that I didn't have any information about Amanda. Any accurate information, that is. Mr. Thornhill waited a minute, then sighed. "I don't know who you think you're protecting her from. I am not her enemy." Something in his voice made me jerk my head up and look at him. I'd expected to find him staring me down, but instead he was looking across the parking lot in the direction of his car, almost like he was picturing it the way it had looked Thursday morning. As if he too were surprised or unsettled by the softness in his tone, Mr. Thornhill bent down and picked up his briefcase.
"Well, looks like we will all have the dubious pleasure of sharing one another's company in 1 week's time. Unless, of course, other developments make that unnecessary."
Again he waited, and again none of us said anything. Then he quickly turned and headed off in the direction of his car. Even though there was no way he could have heard us talking, we were silent until he pulled out of the parking lot. "Let me see what she left for you," said Nia eagerly. As Hal reached into his jacket pocket, I said, "I don't know what she left you guys, but what she left me makes absolutely no sense. It's this yellow piece of a postcard," finished Nia, her hand held out to take it. Surprised, I continued, "Right, with part of a message on it," she said, still thrusting her hand impatiently in my direction. I was amazed. Maybe the rest of that was on Nia's part of the postcard. Suddenly I wasn't mad at Amanda anymore. I was dying of curiosity. I fumbled in my pocket for the card as Hal held out his section for Nia to see. In a second, Nia had the 3 pieces of postcard together, and we could see there was a picture of a big yellow brick road winding up to something that was ripped away at the top of the frame. Had Amanda kept that part for herself? "What's written on the back?" I asked, almost grabbing the card in my excitement. Holding the 3 pieces together against her palm, Nia flipped her hand over so we could read Amanda's message. Beneath the message was the single letter M, and the rest of the message was ripped off. "Meg knew she had to search. Think about it. M." Nia read aloud. Then she snorted. "Oh, that's helpful." I read the message over Nia's shoulder several times, moving my lips as I did. Meg. Who is Meg? "Isn't there that girl in our grade named Meg?" Hal squinted off into the distance. "You mean Meg Horton?" Meg Horton had been one of the girls I hung out with before I became an I-girl. Hal shrugged. "Yeah, it could be her last name." "She moved away at the end of 8th grade, I said. "Amanda wouldn't have even known her." Nia put her hand over her forehead and held it there for a minute, then dropped both hands down to her side without letting go of the slips of paper. "This is maddening." "We are going to figure it out," said Hal. "But you know what? If she left these, she is still around. She's here somewhere, which is something." We all thought about that for a second. That didn't seem like a good thing. Nia shook her head as if to clear it. "Okay, I need some time to think. Do you guys mind leaving me with your notes?" A few minutes ago, I'd been so mad at Amanda's playing a trick on me that I almost thrown out my portion of the postcard. Now I realized it was part of something bigger, that it really was some kind of message. I felt sad at the idea of just giving it away. But there was something comforting, too, about handing it over to Nia. It was like I couldn't quite find the words I wanted, but it was as if I knew she'd take care of it for me. Like whatever this was, whatever it meant, it was as important to Nia as it was to me. And suddenly I felt an overwhelming urge to apologize to Nia for everything, for Heidi and Keith and the I-girls, and And for me, for just being who I was.
But how freaky would that have been if I just suddenly blurted out, Nia, I'm so sorry, I was me. But so instead I held up my hands to indicate I didn't need my portion back. Go for it. Then I turned to Hal. Did you find her file? He shook his head. I checked his desk drawers, his briefcase, and the closet. It's not there. Do you think that she took it for some reason? Asked Nia, chewing on the nail of her index finger. I mean, she did have the key to his office. I remember the pile of folders in the back seat of Thornhill's car. Or he could have moved it? Anything's possible, said Hal. So maybe for now we should stick with what we know, like the addresses she gave us. One's got to be real. Callie's already gone to Princeton Avenue House, and that was a bust, so why don't we check out the condo downtown and the hotel she told Nia that she was living in? I turned to gape at Nia. She told you she was living in a hotel? Comfort Inn on Route 10, Nia nodded at the memory. But she told me that when I first met her, and she said they were only staying there till they found a place to live. Her parents were going through a really ugly divorce, and her mom grew up here in Orion. Nia shrugged. That's what she told me anyway. That's why they moved here. An ugly divorce? A dead father? Uganda? Latin America? There wasn't even a common theme to Amanda's lies, much less a consistent story. Did she ever mention having moved after that? Asked Hal. Ever say they'd left the hotel? Nia raised her eyebrow. I noticed she did that when she thought a question was beneath her. We didn't really have those kind of conversations. I knew what she meant. Amanda wasn't the kind of friend you asked, like if she'd done the English reading, or if she'd studied for the bio quiz, or if she and her mom were still looking for a house to buy or rent. Those were the types of conversations you had with everyone else. And Amanda was most definitely not everyone else. Look, I'm going to go home and see if we can figure out what this postcard means, said Nia. I feel like it's important. Hal and I nodded. What about watching the surveillance footage? Hal asked. If you guys want to, you could catch it at one of your houses tonight, said Nia, and she looked a little embarrassed. But my parents will be in all our faces if I go out or have people over. Saturday's kind of our family night. Saturday night was family night? I couldn't decide if I was jealous of Nia or felt sorry for her. Her pointing out that it was Saturday night reminded me that I was going to a party with the I-girls in a few hours. But the strange thing was, right now I didn't feel excited about Liz's at all. There was no way around it. Callie Leary, I-girl, was standing in front of Endeavor, hoping Hal Bennett would say he and Nia Rivera and I could spend Saturday night at his house watching footage from the Endeavor parking lot. Before I could even begin to analyze my feelings, much less formulate a story to tell my friends about why I wouldn't be at the party at the Century, Hal said, my mom wasn't exactly a big fan of Amanda's. I noticed his cheeks were flushed and he was looking beyond us, like the brick facade of Endeavor was so fascinating he couldn't take his eyes off it. I'm not sure we should watch it in my place. Despite my inexplicable disappointment, I stayed silent. It was one thing to have a fleeting wish I could spend the evening with Hal and Nia solving the mysteries Amanda had created for us. It was another to issue an invitation that would involve having Nia and Hal over to witness my dad's post-cocktail hour behavior. What if you guys come over to my house tomorrow? Said Nia, obviously assuming from my silence that my mom, like Hal's, was no fan of Amanda's. Great. Hal clapped heartily. What time? I'll call you in the morning, said Nia. I have to ask if it's okay and what time we're getting home from church. Sometimes we stay for lunch, or we have lunch company after. Church? Family night? I was so not in Kansas anymore. Okay, I said, so I guess we'll talk tomorrow then. Yeah, agreed Nia with her usual weariness. Tomorrow. Tomorrow.